Storytime doll. I, 23, female, used to work nights at a tiny no-name hotel in a small town. Needless to say, I see a bunch of weird shady stuff on a daily basis, but nothing could have ever prepared me for what I would see on the night I quit. I wasn't even supposed to be working, but someone else called in sick, and I stupidly agreed to cover the shift. I still have nightmares about everything that happened that night, and I was diagnosed with PTSD. It started out like any other night. I was at the front desk organizing check-ins and check-outs for the next day when I started to hear a weird noise coming from somewhere. It kind of sounded like someone trying to speak with their mouth covered. At first I tried to ignore it, but then it started to seem like it was getting more desperate. I stood up to try and figure out where the sound was coming from, and at that very moment, a guest came into the lobby. I was so distracted by him, mainly because he was acting really weird, that I didn't notice the noise had stopped. Usually when someone comes to the desk it's because they need something, or they've locked themselves out of their room. But this guy seemed like he just wanted to talk. He asked me how my night was going, and if I had seen anything weird. I almost mentioned the noise I was hearing, but since I couldn't hear it anymore, I didn't bring it up. This guy kept looking around, as if he was waiting for something, but when I asked him if he was looking for someone he got angry. At the time, I thought it was so strange, because up until then we were having a normal pleasant talk. Looking back at that moment, I realize how much danger I was actually in. He grabbed my arm, pulled me forward, and told me to mind my elfin business. Of course I was feeling all sorts of things because he was touching me, but something much worse was going on underneath the desk. I could feel someone grabbing my legs. I don't know why, but in that moment, I knew I couldn't under any circumstances let the man in front of me know what was happening underneath the desk. I calmly apologized and asked him if there was anything else I could do for him. I was so relieved when he started to walk away, but I knew when he was out of sight, I would have to come face to face with whatever was under my desk. When I finally gathered the courage to look, it took every bit of strength not to scream. I knew right away I couldn't do anything to cause that guy to come back. There under my desk was a girl about my age. Her face was covered in exaggerated makeup, but it almost looked like she was actually made of glass. I was so confused by what I was seeing that I reached out to touch her face, and when she didn't flinch, that's when I saw it. Her eyes were perfect, almost glass-like, and she didn't blink once. I helped her up, led her to a back room, and called 911. Before I knew it, the lobby of the hotel was full of police and paramedics. I had to go with the officer to open the door registered to the weird guest, but when we got up to his room the door was wide open. He was nowhere to be found. As soon as I got back to the lobby, the girl wouldn't let go of my hand. Even when I tried to tell the girl that I couldn't go with her, she wouldn't let go. I ended up in the ambulance with her, and I'll never forget everything they said she'd been through. Her eyes were glass. Whatever was there before had been removed. Her makeup was permanently attached to her face with layers and layers of superglue. The overly fluffy skirt and shirt she had on had been sewn in place, and I just knew that guy was out there somewhere looking for his next doll.